Opening an Australian bank account from back in the States is still something you can do the easy way right now, but the ID verification rules are quietly tightening, and the folks who set their banking up early are the ones whose whole move down here feels effortless. But before I get into all of it, it would really mean a lot if you'd subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It honestly makes my day. Now let me tell you why I'm bringing this up today. I learned this the good way 4 years ago, when I did it before I ever packed a single suitcase. And in the 4 years since, I've watched the rules start to shift, little by little, the way these things always do. So I want to hand you what I know while the doing is still simple. Let me picture the old life for you first, because I think you'll recognize it. Back home, I remember those long, gray winters that just would not quit. The sky the color of an old nickel for weeks on end. The mailbox stuffed so full the little door wouldn't shut. Half of it bills, half of it flyers I never asked for. And that feeling, you know, the one where every little errand seemed to need 3 signatures and a notary who was only open on Tuesdays, it wears on a person. It really does. And through all that gray, I had this one daydream I kept coming back to. Coffee out on a porch, a warm, salty breeze coming off the Pacific, cockatoos screeching in the gum trees at dawn, loud as anything, and me not minding one bit. That was the life I wanted. That was the whole picture. But there was one thing that nearly froze me right where I stood. One nagging worry that almost talked me out of the whole adventure. How on earth do you get money flowing to a brand new life from the other side of the world? Your Social Security check has to land somewhere. Your rent, your first power bill, your groceries, all of it needs a bank account on the ground. And from a kitchen table in the States, that felt like a mountain. It felt like the kind of thing that could sink the whole dream before it started. Here's where the good news begins, because it turned out to be so much smaller than the mountain in my head. 4 years ago, I opened the account online, remotely, before boarding the plane. Sitting right there at my own kitchen table, laptop open, coffee going cold beside me. No lines, no trip anywhere, no stress, just me and a form on the screen. And here's the part that surprised me most. All it really took was a passport and proof of address. That was the heart of it. My passport and one document showing where I lived. I remember laying that passport open on the table next to a utility bill thinking, surely there's a catch. There wasn't. Not then. Is it really that complicated to open a bank account from the other side of the world? No. Not yet. Anyway. And that little phrase, not yet, is the whole reason I'm sitting here talking to you. Now, I told you the passport and the address document were the heart of it, and that's true, but I'll be honest with you about something. Knowing which exact documents to have ready, and in what order, and what to do when the bank wants that one extra little thing you didn't expect, that's the part where people get tangled up. That's the part nobody spells out for you until you're already stuck. That's exactly the headache I built One-Way Guide to erase. It's all my hard-won know-how in one place. The little banking and visa and money tricks nobody tells you until it's too late, laid out step by step, along with the retiree forms and the filing help, so you can open your Australian account with total peace of mind. If you want the full walkthrough, the whole thing document by document, you can scan the code on your screen or find the link down in the description. Think of it as me sitting across the table pointing at each line so you never wonder if you missed one. So that's the setup side. But let me tell you how the other end felt, because that's the part that still makes me smile. When I landed on the Sunshine Coast, blinking in that bright warm light after all those gray winters, I walked into a little branch not far from the water. I showed my face, I showed my passport, and a lovely woman named Carol activated everything over a cup of tea. That was it. That was the whole thing. I keep coming back to Carol and that cup of tea because it's the perfect picture of how this is supposed to go. No panic, no stack of forms slid across the counter, just a warm handshake, a few minutes, and a fresh account ready to catch my first pension payment. All because the hard part, the remote setup, was already done and dusted before I ever set foot in the country. And that, right there, is the whole secret. It isn't money that makes an arrival smooth. It isn't luck. It's timing. The people whose move feels effortless are simply the ones who did their banking early, while the paperwork was still gentle. Everything downstream gets easy. The Social Security check lands clean. The first power bill in Australian dollars gets paid without a hitch. Your American money and your Australian money start working together like two old friends who've known each other for years. Now, I've been saying it a few times, and maybe you've been waiting for me to explain it. This window. This idea that you can still do it the easy way, but not forever. Because the truth is, the door that Carol and I walked through so casually is not going to stay this wide open. Something is changing. Something quiet and specific, and it matters more than almost anything else I'll tell you today. It has to do with those ID checks, with what the bank asks you to prove, and how many layers deep they ask you to go. What worked for me 4 years ago, a passport and one simple document, is starting to drift into something else. Something with more steps, something that's a breeze when you're standing in the country, and a real puzzle from a kitchen table back in the States. And if you understand exactly what's shifting, you'll know precisely why doing this now is the kindest thing you can do for your future self. So let me show you exactly what that means. The ID checks. That's the thing that changes everything. What used to be a passport and one simple document is drifting toward more layers of verification. The kind that's easy to gather when you're standing in the country, and a real puzzle to satisfy from a kitchen table in the States. Let me show you exactly what that means for you. Picture the old way for a second. 4 years ago, I opened my account with my passport and one proof of address, one document, a power bill, a bank statement, something with my name and where I lived. That was the whole story. Quick and gentle. Now think about where it's heading. Instead of one box to tick, imagine a checklist with 4 or 5. Your passport, sure, but then a second photo ID. Then a proof of address that has to be recent and in a certain format. Then maybe a video call where you hold your documents up to a camera at a time that works for their office hours, not yours, and their office is 14 hours ahead of your living room. And here's the quiet part nobody spells out. Each extra layer is one more thing that's easy over here and a headache over there. When you're standing in Australia, a proof of address is your own power bill sitting on the kitchen counter. When you're back in the States, your address is American, your documents are American, and every one of those boxes gets a little harder to fill from 6,000 miles away. That's the closing window, not slammed shut, just quietly narrowing one document at a time. Do it now while it's still simple, and you slip right through. So let me flip this around because I don't want you sitting there worried. This isn't a warning, it's an opportunity, and the opportunity is timing. Open your account now, while the paperwork is still gentle, and every single thing that comes after gets easy. No drama, no scramble. You just glide into your new life with the money side already handled. And that's a good thing. Let me show you what easy actually looks like once the account is open and breathing. Ask yourself one honest question. Where's your money going to land the week you arrive? Because that's the real test. Your Social Security check has to go somewhere. If your Australian account is already alive and waiting, that check lands cleanly, right where it should, and you never think about it again. You wake up, the money's there, and you go have your coffee. No forms, no phone calls, no wondering. Then comes the first power bill, and I remember mine like it was yesterday. It showed up with the amount printed in Australian dollars, and for a second my American brain did a little double take, but I already had the account. I already had the money flowing in. So I paid that first power bill in Australian dollars without a hitch, sitting on the porch, cockatoos screeching away at dawn like they were cheering me on. It felt like I'd lived here for years. And that's really the heart of it. When you set the banking up early, your two financial lives stop being strangers. Your US money and your Australian money start working together like old friends. The pension comes over, the account here catches it, the bills get paid, and it all just hums along in the background. You're not managing two separate worlds anymore. You've got one calm system, and it runs itself. Now, I want to tell you about a good buddy of mine from back home. His name's Ray, salt of the earth, sharp as they come, and he made exactly one small miscalculation. He figured banking was one of those things you sort out after you arrive. Land first, settle in, then wander into a branch and knock it out in an afternoon. Made sense to him. Would have made sense to me too once. But Ray held off, and he hit the tighter checks. By the time he got here, the branch wanted more than a passport and a single document. They wanted the extra layers. And now he's trying to prove an Australian address he doesn't have yet because he just landed. while his other paperwork is still boxed up or back in the States. So he spent 3 weeks chasing documents while his pension sat in limbo. 3 weeks. His money was out there somewhere, ready to come, and it had no clean place to land. He was fine, don't get me wrong. He got there in the end, and today he laughs about it over a beer. But 3 weeks of your first month down under, spent standing in lines and photocopying documents instead of walking the beach? That's the part I'd love to spare you. And here's the good news. None of this happens to the folks who move a little early. Not one bit of it. Ray's 3 weeks weren't bad luck. They were just timing. He did the same steps everyone does, only he did them at the hardest possible moment, from the wrong side of the ocean, right as the rules were firming up. So let's talk about how you actually open the thing, because you've got a fork in the road, and both paths are good. It comes down to remote versus in-person. Remote means you do it the way I did. Online, from your kitchen table back home, before you ever board the plane. Your passport, your proof of address, a form or two, and you're set. The big advantage is you land with a live account already waiting for you. That's the smoothest way, and honestly, with the rules tightening, it's the one I'd nudge most of you toward. Do it while remote is still easy. In-person means you wait and walk into a branch after you arrive, shake a hand, show your face, sit down with a real person. Some folks just prefer that. They like looking someone in the eye and asking their questions across a desk. And it's a fine way to go, as long as you've got your documents lined up and you're not counting on your pension landing that very first week. How do you choose? Simple. If you want the money flowing from day one, go remote and get it done early. If you'd rather handle it face-to-face and you've got a little cushion to wait, in-person works too. There's no wrong answer here, there's only the one that fits how you like to do things. But I'll let you in on something, and this is the part that took me a while to really understand. When I look back at Ray and his 3 weeks, and then I look at the folks who arrived and were paying rent and buying groceries like locals on day one, the difference between them was never money. Ray's got plenty. It wasn't about who had the bigger nest egg. It was one quiet decision, one detail nobody thinks to mention, made long before you pack a single box. It's not remote or in person. It's not how many documents you gather. It's something else entirely, sitting underneath all of it, and it's the real reason some people glide in and others scramble. And there's a woman from my little coastal coffee group who did that one thing exactly right. Let me tell you about her. Matching your bank setup to your visa plan before you pack a single box. That was the quiet decision. And this lady from our little expat coffee group in a quiet coastal town in Queensland, she did exactly that. She's a retired school teacher from Ohio, sharp as a tack, and she planned her banking the same season she planned her visa, set the account up early, lined it up neatly with the path she was taking down here, so by the time her plane touched down, everything on the money side was already breathing. And I mean everything. The very same day she arrived, she was buying groceries and paying rent like she'd lived here for years. Her card worked in the shop. Her rent went through on her phone, right there in the driveway of her new little place. No fumbling. No calling the States at 3 a.m. She pushed a cart down the aisle, picked out her tea and her bread, tapped to pay, and that was that. Now think back to Ray, my good buddy from home who figured he'd sort his banking after he landed. 3 weeks he spent chasing documents while his pension sat in limbo. Same dream, same ocean, same sunshine waiting for both of them. So what was the difference between the two of them? It wasn't money. Ray had plenty. That woman wasn't rich. The difference wasn't money. It was timing. She stepped through the window while it was still simple. He waited, and the window had tightened on him. That's the whole secret, folks. That's the thing nobody spells out for you at the kitchen table back home. It isn't the size of your nest egg that makes the landing smooth. It's whether your account was already alive and waiting when your feet hit the tarmac. So here's exactly what I'd do if I were sitting where you are right now. First, decide how you want to open it, remote or in person. If you're still back in the States, you do it remotely, online, from your kitchen table, the way I did 4 years ago. If you're the kind who likes to shake a hand and see a face, you can wait and walk into a branch once you're here. Both work. There's no wrong answer. It's just about what puts your mind at ease. Second, gather your 2 documents now, your passport and 1 proof of address. That's it. That's what it still takes today. A passport and a single piece of paper showing where you live. Nice and gentle, but that's the exact part that's drifting. What used to be one document is inching toward more layers of checking, harder to satisfy from the other side of the world. So you want those two simple things doing the job while they still can. Third, match your bank setup to your visa plans. This is the piece Ray skipped and the school teacher nailed. Look at the path you're taking down here, the investor retirement visa or one of the well-planned long-term alternatives, and set your account up so the two fit together like they were made for each other. When your banking and your visa are pointing the same direction, there's nothing left to trip over. And fourth, get it activated before those extra layers land. That's the whole ball game. Open it now while a passport and one document still opens the door. Then everything downstream falls into place on its own. And let me tell you, that activation part is gentler than you'd ever guess. When I landed on the Sunshine Coast 4 years back, I walked into a branch with nothing but my passport and the account I'd already opened from home. A lovely woman named Carol met me at the counter. She poured me a cup of tea, sat me down, and activated the whole thing right there while we chatted about the weather back in the States. That was it. Tea steaming on the counter, cockatoos carrying on outside the window, and my new financial life switched on in about the time it takes to finish a biscuit. That's still how it goes today. That's how simple it still is this very morning for the folks who move while the window's open. A cup of tea and a friendly face and a passport. But simple like that doesn't stay simple forever. That's the honest truth I keep coming back to. Now, I know how a big move can sit on your chest. All those forms, all that paperwork stretching across an ocean. It can feel like every little errand needs 3 signatures and a notary, the way it did back home in those long gray winters. But this one small step, this one early move, is what quietly takes all that weight off. Get the banking sorted first, and the rest of it, the Social Security check landing clean, that first power bill in Australian dollars getting paid without a hitch, your US and Australian money working together like old friends, all of it just clicks along behind it. So don't rush it and don't fret over it. Take your time. Do a little homework up front, and you'll have that wonderful feeling of being completely set up long before you ever board the plane. And picture what's waiting for you once it's done. That's the part I want you to hold on to, because I'm living it. I'm out on my porch right now, coffee going cold in my hand because I keep forgetting to drink it, watching the Pacific glitter out beyond the gum trees, the salty breeze coming up off the water, the cockatoos screeching their heads off at dawn like they own the place. And honestly, out here they kind of do. And somewhere in a bank branch a few miles up the coast, my account is sitting there, alive and quiet and completely sorted, doing its job while I do nothing but enjoy the morning. That's the reward. That's what's on the other side of one gentle little step you take while you're still back home in your slippers. Not a mountain of stress. Not 3 weeks of chasing papers like poor Ray. Just this. Warm mornings, a slower pace, and the deep peace of mind that comes from being ready. The woman from the coffee group has it. I have it. Ray has it now too, bless him. He just took the long, bumpy road to get there. You don't have to. You can take the easy road, the one that's still wide open this very minute. So look at your passport. Look at that one proof of address sitting in your drawer. 2 ordinary little documents, and right now, today, they're enough. That's the window. That's the whole thing I've been trying to hand you. The window's still open. Step through it while it's easy, and the rest of your Australian chapter falls right into place.